Burnout in Biglaw is a huge problem, but Biglaw doesn't have a monopoly on lawyer burnout. So this video is for you whether you work in Biglaw, want to work in Biglaw, or are just a lawyer who's experiencing burnout. Because what I'm going to talk about is why we tend to focus on Biglaw for burnout and why we really shouldn't, because no matter where you work, if you experience burnout, it's burnout. Welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Annie Little. I'm an ICF certified coach and a former lawyer. And I created this channel for lawyers who are looking for practical guidance on how to land, lead, and succeed in the legal profession and beyond. I'm going to start by talking about Biglaw Bias. And basically what I'm talking about here is why we hear so much about Biglaw in general, and in particular when we're talking about lawyer burnout. And it all starts in law school. There's this bias toward Biglaw being the thing that you should strive for. When career services starts talking about OCI well before you can even participate in it. And all we really know about OCI in that first year is that we can only qualify if we have the grades. And if we don't have the grades, we don't get to go to OCI. And if we don't go to OCI, we're not going to get into Biglaw, and then we're screwed. So straight out of the gate, you might have already felt inadequate before OCI was even an option for you. And seriously, leave it to Biglaw to trash the mental health of lawyers who don't even work for them. And another reason why Biglaw gets a lot of attention is because they tend to be on the extreme side of the legal employer spectrum, right? They have like these crazy big salaries. They have these really flashy matters and with famous clients or really big deals. They have can even have some scandals, and of course they're known for having ridiculously high billable hour requirements. Those things don't happen exclusively within Biglaw. And as such, Biglaw shouldn't be the barometer for the rest of the legal profession when it comes to anything, especially burnout. One of the reasons why I want us to get away from holding Biglaw up as this standard for what is the worst kind of burnout for lawyers is that burnout itself is very personal. And what triggers your burnout shouldn't be compared to what triggers another person's burnout, or what those symptoms that you have look like compared to someone else's. And I feel like this needs to be said because I do talk to some clients who are genuinely burnt out, but because they don't work in Biglaw, they try to minimize what they're going through by saying something like, you know, I am really, really burned out, but I mean, at least I don't work in Biglaw because then it would be even worse. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And that's because different experiences impact each of us very differently, which means that it's entirely possible that a workplace that burns you out may not burn out one of your colleagues, and vice versa. But here's what I want you to take away from this. If you're burned out, you're suffering, period. Let's say you are in Biglaw. Let me just put this out there. Leaving Biglaw isn't enough to cure your burnout. To be clear, while I fully endorse leaving a job where you are burnt out to go to a different job, absolutely, that in and of itself may not be sufficient to curb your burnout. So when you do decide to leave your job, your next step is to really investigate your future employer and learn about their workplace to make sure it's not one that is going to trigger burnout just like your last job did. Because the only thing that's worse than being burned out in your current job is leaving your job thinking you're getting away from burnout, getting into a new job and realizing you're burnt out all over again. And if you want to start identifying what your unique triggers are for burnout, you should check out my free lawyer burnout guide. It is called Break Free from Lawyer Burnout. It is based on the work I've done with hundreds of lawyers over the years to help them overcome their burnout and then find a job that won't lead them down that same path. There's a link in the description below, and I hope it gives you that jump start that you need to move on to your next burnout-free job.